I don't usually talk about my past. Honestly, I've spent years trying not to. But lately, I don't know. Maybe it's the way certain memories keep resurfacing when I'm alone, or the way a particular song plays at the wrong time and pulls everything back like a tide I can't fight. And maybe this is stupid, but before I start, I just want to say something I've never admitted out loud. I think a part of me still misses who I used to be when she loved me. I miss the version of myself I only saw reflected in her eyes. It sounds dramatic, I know. But this is the truest way I can begin, because nothing about what happened makes sense unless I start with the honesty I avoided for so long. Her name was Elise. And she loved me like no one else ever did, until the night everything fell apart. I met her on a late afternoon when I was trying to fix my life, well, pretending to, at least. I just left a meeting that had gone horribly wrong. I was tired of my job, tired of myself, tired of pretending I had a plan when, in reality, I was just waking up every day hoping things wouldn't get worse. I walked into this little cafe near my apartment because I needed caffeine, something sweet, or maybe just a pause from existing. She was there behind the counter, wiping a glass, her hair tied in a loose knot that somehow looked like she hadn't tried but still managed to be perfect. I remember staring a second longer than I should have, maybe because she had this quiet glow about her, not bright, not loud, but soft, the kind that pulls you in without you realizing. She looked up, smiled, and asked, "Rough day?" I don't know why, but I laughed. I wasn't planning to talk. I wasn't planning anything. But something about the way she asked made me feel like she actually wanted to know. So I told her. Not everything, of course, just the pieces that were safe to reveal. She listened the way people rarely do, not interrupting, not judging, just being there, fully present. I didn't know how much I missed that until it happened. That day, I walked out feeling lighter. And the next day, I went back, not because of the coffee, which wasn't even that great if I'm being honest, but because I wanted to see her again. I didn't think anything would come out of it. She was too kind, too calm, too bright for someone like me. But somehow, without me noticing, she became the part of my day I looked forward to more than anything else. We started talking about random things, her taste for old music, her habit of collecting notes she found on the street, my ridiculous attempts to cook, which she found genuinely funny for some reason. Then our conversations got deeper. She told me she had grown up in a small, quiet place she never named, and that she rarely spoke to her family. I didn't understand why, but whenever the topic got close to her past, she'd shift the conversation in another direction. I didn't push. At the time, I thought she just didn't feel comfortable. Now, I know it was something else entirely. But even with those missing pieces, Elise was the warmest person I had ever met. She made everything feel a little less heavy, a little more possible. And I fell in love with her in this soft, slow, inevitable way, like stepping into sunlight and realizing you've been cold your entire life. She wasn't perfect. She was messy with her thoughts, unpredictable with her moods, and sometimes she'd go quiet for hours, lost somewhere I couldn't reach. But even those imperfections felt beautiful because they were hers. There was this night, I think about it often, when we were sitting on my couch eating cheap takeout. Out of nowhere, she leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You make me feel safe." She said it gently, like she was telling me a secret nobody else had earned. And I remember thinking, God, I don't deserve this woman. But she looked up at me like I did. Like I was the one anchoring her. That night was the first time I realized she loved me too. From that moment on, she was everywhere in my life. Not in an overwhelming way, more like this quiet presence that made the world softer. I'd wake up to her wearing my shirt, cooking scrambled eggs terribly, humming a tune she never finished. She made my apartment feel like a home, and I didn't even know it was missing that until she arrived. But even the happiest stories have shadows, and hers were darker than anything I had prepared for. It started small, tiny shifts I ignored. She'd get startled by noises other people wouldn't notice. She'd jump if someone knocked on the door too loudly. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd wake up and find her sitting on the floor, hugging her knees, breathing too fast. When I'd kneel beside her, she'd force a smile and say, "Just a nightmare, it's nothing." But it wasn't nothing. I knew that. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't want to break her trust by pushing, and I was terrified of losing her by staying silent. So I held her when she trembled. I kissed her forehead when her eyes looked haunted. And every morning, I hoped the shadows would fade. But they didn't. One evening, she came home later than usual. She looked pale, almost sick. I asked what happened, and she said she had a headache, but her hands were shaking. She tried to hide it by stuffing them in her pockets. The next day, she apologized for being distant. She brought me coffee in bed, kissed me like she hadn't in days, and said, "I'm trying. Please don't give up on me." I held her face in my hands and told her I never would. But I didn't understand what I was promising. Love can make you blind. It can make you ignore the signs even when they're screaming in your face. Looking back, I remember the moments that didn't make sense, the details that felt off. Like the time she panicked when my phone rang from an unknown number. Or the day she saw a stranger on the street and grabbed my arm with such force her nails left marks. When I asked what was wrong, she said, "Nothing. I thought I saw someone I used to know." I didn't question her. Maybe I should have. One night, she stayed at my place later than usual. We were lying together, listening to the rain tapping against the window. She was tracing circles on my chest with her fingers, something she always did when she was trying to calm herself down. Out of nowhere, she whispered, "If one day something happens, promise you won't think it's your fault." I froze. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer. She just buried her face in my neck and wrapped her arms around me like she was afraid I'd vanish. I tried again, but she only said, "Not tonight. Please." Something inside me tightened. A knot I couldn't untangle. But love makes you believe that your presence alone can protect someone from everything. I thought if I held her close enough, none of those invisible storms could reach her. I was wrong. There was a night, the night, when everything in my life shifted so violently that I still feel the echo. The evening had started normally. She texted me saying she'd be over after finishing something important. I didn't think much of it. I heated food, cleaned the place a little, played our playlist. But she was late. Much later than usual. Around midnight, I started to worry. I called her, but she didn't pick up. I sent messages, nothing. That was the first time I felt real fear. The kind that crawls under your skin and whispers that something is terribly, irreversibly wrong. At 1:17 a.m., someone knocked on my door. It wasn't Elise. It was a woman I had never seen before. Her face looked familiar in a way I couldn't place, like a memory I didn't know I had. She asked, "Are you Elise's boyfriend?" For a moment, I couldn't speak. My throat tightened. "Yes," I finally said. "What happened? Where is she?" The woman hesitated, her eyes full of something between pity and urgency. "She didn't tell you, did she?" "Tell me what?" "She's in trouble. And I think you need to come with me." I should have slammed the door. I should have called the police. I should have done anything except what I actually did. But when someone says the person you love is in danger, logic disappears. Fear becomes the only truth. I grabbed my keys, threw on a jacket, and followed this stranger into the night, praying, begging, that Elise was okay. As I stepped outside, the cold air hit me in a way that felt wrong. Like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for something irreversible to unfold. I had no idea then. But that night would break everything. Everything I believed. Everything I loved. Everything I thought I knew about her, and about myself. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same after it. The woman walked ahead of me with quick steps, barely glancing back to make sure I was following. Her shoulders were stiff, tense, like she was carrying something heavier than her own body. I kept close, my mind racing with every horrible possibility. I didn't know who she was, where she was taking me, or why Elise hadn't called. But I couldn't stop. Every instinct screamed that something terrible was happening, and the only thing I knew with absolute certainty was that Elise needed me. We turned the corner and stopped beside an old, dented car parked under a flickering streetlight. The woman opened the passenger door and motioned for me to get in. "Please," she said. "We don't have much time." Her voice shook, not from fear, but from urgency. Still, a part of me hesitated. I stared at her, trying to make sense of the situation. There was something about her face that bothered me, something familiar I still couldn't place. "Who are you?" I asked. "And where is Elise?" She swallowed hard. "My name is Mara. And Elise, she's in a place she shouldn't be. She asked me to help her, but she doesn't know I came to you." That hit me like a punch. She doesn't want me involved. Mara's expression softened, but not with kindness, with sympathy. She didn't want you hurt. I felt heat rising in my chest, fear, confusion, frustration. Hurt by what? What the hell is going on? Mara looked around nervously, then leaned closer. "You need to trust me. Once we get there, you'll understand." I didn't trust her. But I trusted the love I had for Elise. So I got in the car. The drive was silent for a long time. Mara kept her eyes on the road, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white. The city lights blurred past us until we left the center and moved into quieter, emptier streets. My heartbeat was a constant drum inside my skull. "I've seen you before," I finally said. Mara exhaled slowly. "Probably. That's not an answer." She hesitated, then nodded. "I never spoke to you, but I watched you sometimes. When Elise was working at the cafe. Every hair on my arm stood up." "Why?" "Because she asked me to keep an eye on her." The word sliced through me. Keep an eye on her? From what? Mara didn't respond. I turned toward the window, pressing my hand against my mouth as panic clawed its way upward. If Elise had someone watching her, if she had secrets deep enough to hide from me, then the woman I loved was carrying a weight I never even tried to understand. After what felt like an eternity, the car slowed down in front of an abandoned warehouse. The building looked dead, no lights, no sound, no sign of life. Cold air seeped into my bones as soon as I stepped out. Mara grabbed my wrist. "Before we go in, you need to prepare yourself. What you're about to see, it isn't your fault. None of it." I pulled my hand away. "Just take me to her." She nodded and led the way inside. The warehouse door groaned, echoing through the dark, empty space. Then I heard it. A sound so soft I almost thought I imagined it. Elise. She was crying. The moment I recognized her voice, something inside me cracked open. I ran, straight ahead, blinded by fear, until I saw her. She was sitting on the floor, curled up against a wall, her knees drawn to her chest, her face buried in her arms. Her shoulders shook violently. And she looked so small. So fragile. So unlike the woman who had once told me I made her feel safe. Elise. Her name broke out of me like a prayer. She jerked her head up, eyes swollen, face streaked with tears. When she saw me, her breathing stopped. For a second, she didn't move. Then she whispered, "You weren't supposed to come." I fell to my knees in front of her. "What happened? Why are you here?" She looked at Mara with something between fury and despair. "You promised me," she said. "You promised not to involve him." Mara stepped forward. "I promised to help you. But I won't let you deal with this alone anymore. What alone? I said, my voice cracking. What are you dealing with? Elise, talk to me. Please. She squeezed her eyes shut, pressing her palms against her forehead like she was trying to physically hold herself together. I didn't want you to see me like this, she whispered. I didn't want you to know who I used to be. My breath caught. Who you used to be? She didn't answer immediately. She just stared at the ground, trembling. Then, with a voice so fragile it barely existed, she said. I ran away. I frowned. From what? From a life I never should have had. From people who controlled me. From a man who... Her voice broke completely. I thought I could start over. I thought if I changed my name, if I stayed quiet, if I kept my past hidden, maybe I could be someone you deserved. Tears burned at the back of my eyes. Elise, I don't care about your past. I care about you. She shook her head, violently, as if rejecting reality itself. You don't understand. I wasn't Elise back then. I was someone else. Someone trapped. Someone he owned. The world seemed to tilt. He, who? She wrapped her arms around herself. My ex. If you can even call him that. He was part of a group, people who don't let you leave. People who think a woman is a possession. Ice spread through my veins. Did he hurt you? She didn't answer. And that silence was enough. I felt something inside me twist, rage, sorrow, helplessness, all merging into one unbearable knot. Mara stepped beside her, placing a gentle hand on her back. She got out 2 years ago. She changed everything, her identity, her location, her job. She cut all ties. I helped her disappear. I looked at Mara, finally recognizing what had bothered me before. You were there, at the cafe once. I saw you leaving before I walked in. She nodded. I was checking on her. Pieces of a puzzle I never knew existed began falling into place. Elise lifted her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. For a while, I thought I was safe. But then, I saw someone who looked like him. And everything collapsed. The nightmares came back. The panic. The fear that he'd find me. And when I started spending every day with you, She pressed a hand to her chest. I was terrified of losing you to the truth. I reached out and took her hand gently. You should have told me. I couldn't. Her voice cracked. How do you tell someone you love that your past might destroy them? I held her hand tighter. By trusting them. The moment I said it, she sobbed, like the truth had cut something open inside her. Mara stepped back, giving us space. Elise, show him, she said softly. Elise hesitated, then slowly pulled a small object from her pocket. A phone. But not her phone. It was older, scratched, and cracked on one side. I kept this in case they ever found me, she whispered. It's the last connection I had to that life. I should have thrown it away, but part of me was afraid I'd need it. I swallowed hard. Need it how? She opened the phone with shaking fingers. There were messages, hundreds of them. Unread. Unknown numbers. Threats. Please. Warnings. Pictures from places she used to live. And one message sent just 2 days ago. Found you. My blood turned to ice. Elise, my voice died in my throat. Why didn't you tell me? She wiped her face roughly, as if trying to erase the tears. I didn't want you involved. They ruin everything they touch. And you were the only good thing I had left. I felt tears spill down my cheeks before I even realized I was crying. I pulled her into my arms. She stiffened at first, then collapsed against me with a sob so painful it felt like it ripped through both of us. I'm not leaving you, I whispered. No matter what. She clung to me, her fingers digging into my back like she was afraid I'd disappear if she let go. But Mara's voice cut through the moment. "We need to go," she said sharply. "If they're here, this place isn't safe." I helped Elise stand. Her legs were weak, trembling. I kept an arm around her waist as we followed Mara back outside. The world felt too quiet. Too still. Like danger was hiding just out of sight. When we reached the car, Mara stopped abruptly. Her breath hitched. I followed her gaze, and my stomach dropped. A second car was parked across the street. Engine running. Headlights off. Before I could speak, Elise gripped my arm. Hard. "It's him," she whispered. Her whole body froze. "Please, please, we have to go." But the car door opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Broad. Slow, deliberate movements. His silhouette alone felt wrong. Heavy. Familiar in the worst possible way. Elise trembled violently, shrinking behind me. The man took a step forward, and his voice slid into the night like something poisoned. "Hello, Elise." She flinched so hard I thought she would collapse. I moved in front of her instinctively. "Stay behind me." The man smirked, not amused, but entertained. "So this is the new one." My fists clenched. "Stay away from her." He tilted his head, studying me like I was an insect he could crush whenever he felt like it. "Elise belongs to me," he said calmly. "She always has." "No," she whispered behind me. "I don't. Not anymore." His eyes sharpened. And something in the air shifted, like the night itself was bracing for impact. Mara pulled out her phone and whispered urgently, "I'm calling the police." The man chuckled. "You think that matters?" He took another step. I positioned myself between him and Elise, heart racing, every muscle tight. "Touch her," I said, "and I swear." He raised a hand. "Not to hit me. To show me something." A small object glinted under the dim light. A key. Elise gasped behind me. I didn't understand at first, until the man spoke. "I still have everything you left behind, Elise. Everything you thought you escaped. You can run, but you don't get to erase what you owe." My jaw tightened. "She doesn't owe you anything." He looked at me, amused. "You don't know a damn thing." But I saw it then. In Elise's face. In her eyes, dark with fear, drowning in it. There was more. More than she told me. More than I was ready to hear. Before anything else could happen, sirens echoed in the distance. Close. Getting closer fast. The man stepped back toward his car, never taking his eyes off Elise. "This isn't over," he said. "Not even close." He got in, slammed the door, and drove off just as police cars turned the corner. Elise's knees buckled. I caught her before she hit the ground. She was shaking uncontrollably, her breath coming in sharp, broken gasps. "It's over," I said softly, holding her head against my chest. "He's gone." But she whispered something that froze me completely. "No, you don't understand." Her voice trembled violently. "He doesn't give up. He never gives up. And now that you're involved, he won't stop." I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay steady. "We'll handle it. Together." She closed her eyes, tears leaking through. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have left before you got hurt. I never should have loved you." I held her tighter, trying to ease the pain in her voice. "You loving me is the only thing that kept you alive until now," I said. "Don't ever apologize for that." Her fingers tightened around my shirt, and for the first time, she didn't hide her sobs. She let them out, raw, painful, full of years she spent running from someone who believed he owned her. We stayed like that until the police approached, asking questions neither of us were ready to answer fully. Mara handled most of it, explaining bits and pieces while Elise kept her face buried in my chest. Eventually, they escorted us home. The moment the door closed behind us, Elise collapsed onto the couch, exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally. I sat beside her, brushing her hair away from her face. She looked at me with hollow eyes. "Why are you still here?" she whispered. "You should leave. For your safety. For your life." I shook my head. "I'm not leaving you. Not now. Not ever." Her lips trembled. "You don't know what loving me will cost you." I cupped her face in my hands, forcing her to meet my eyes. "I don't care about the cost. I care about you." She broke again, quietly this time. Tears slid down her cheeks, but she didn't look away. And in that moment, something changed. She wasn't running anymore. She wasn't hiding. She was letting me in, fully, painfully, honestly. I wrapped my arms around her, and she rested her head on my chest, breathing slowly, trying to steady herself. For the first time since all of this began, she whispered something that soothed the storm inside me. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't," I said softly. "As long as you let me stay." We sat there in silence, the kind that feels like a fragile truce with the world. Eventually, her breathing softened. She closed her eyes, her head resting on my shoulder, and I thought about everything, how she loved me deeply, desperately, but always with a shadow behind her. And how, despite every fear she had, she chose me tonight. She let me see the parts of her that terrified her the most. When I looked at her sleeping beside me, fragile yet strong, wounded yet fighting, I understood something I had never allowed myself to say aloud. I didn't just love her. I needed her. Maybe more than she needed me. And even though the danger wasn't gone, even though the man from her past would return, even though the road ahead was darker than anything I'd ever faced, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I wouldn't let her face it alone. Not anymore. And that night, with her breath soft against my chest and the world silent around us, I finally felt the weight of the truth settle inside me. She loved me like no one else ever did. Not perfectly. Not peacefully. But fiercely. Desperately. Honestly. And no matter what came next, I wasn't going anywhere.